Hey guys, this is Buck. I just want to take a quick minute to talk about scorecards. Talk about how we measure success in anything in life. I grew up playing soccer, and when we played soccer, the way you score is you kick a ball in the net and you score. So therefore, the goal of the game is to kick your ball in someone else's net and to keep them from kicking their balls in your net. So, but if the goal had been to, or if the score had been to kick the ball out of bounds, whoever kicked the ball out of bounds the most, everybody would have been trying to kick the ball out of bounds. So we look at that and we realize that the scorecard is one of the most important things. It defines how we measure success, and it defines how we, what our targets are and what our goals are. So we have to have a scorecard. That being said, in business, I can measure. I'm a home inspector, so in business, I can measure my success based on the number of inspections I do. I can measure success based on the amount of revenue I produce, or net profit. There's so many different ways I can measure success, and but that's not what I'm really talking about. So, but then when we come into the church, we can talk about how do we measure success in the church? Do we measure success based on how many people show up on Sunday morning? What's your Sunday morning attendance? How many people are in small groups? That's a great measure of success. What's your small group attendance? What's your giving? How has the giving been? Is it relative to past weeks? Has your giving up this past few weeks, or is your giving down this past few weeks? Because you can tell, if it is an indicator that when people are connected to God, they're givers, because the heart of the Father is to give. So when people connect to God, they will give. So we look at that and we say, okay, so but what is our scorecard, and what was Jesus's scorecard? That's huge. So we can talk about money as Jesus's scorecard. If money was Jesus's scorecard, would he have entrusted the purse to the guy that he knew was going to be a traitor? Think about that. So obviously, while money can be a good indicator, but of things, but is money the the scorecard? No, it's not. And I think most people can agree on that. So how about church attendance? Did did they measure attendance? So they give approximate numbers here and there, and they would talk about how big the crowds were here and there. But what you really see is Jesus talking about the disciples, and when you see exact numbers, it's Jesus sends out the 12. Jesus sends out the 72. When you see exact measured numbers, it is the numbers of people that are being sent out. It's not the number of people that are coming in, it's the number of people being sent out. So think about this. In order for someone to be sent out, they first have to come in. That's awesome. But in order for someone to come in, they don't have to be sent out. So we're measuring so much of the time when we measure attendance, we're measuring a mediary step. We're not measuring the final goal. And if that's like in soccer, saying that you get a point every time you get the ball past midfield. That doesn't make sense. The ultimate goal is to make disciples, and if the ultimate goal is to make disciples, then we should measure activity that shows that people are discipling, or being discipled. So, an activity is, how many spiritual conversations have people had? That's a great thing you can measure in small groups, if you want to measure that. And it's about having that conversation in a small group. Hey, tell me about your spirit-led conversations you had this week. Tell me about who you talked to. You could measure. You could have people even track. Hey, did you go out and love on somebody this week? Now we got to be careful, because Scripture says, "Don't let the left hand know what the right hand's doing." So it's not about bragging what you did, but you can track it without bragging about it, like in small groups and those accountability groups. But be creatively figuring out ways to measure discipling activities, or activities that a disciple would participate in. You could measure in your discipling groups how many people are actually showing up for discipling groups and how many people are just participating in that. That kind of stuff. If you measure it, and that almost sounds like attendance, but the difference is you're not measuring how many people are coming in. You're measuring how many people are actively participating in the activity of going out in daily life. How many people are actively going out in their daily lives and making disciples as they go. So, it's just a change in scorecard, a change in what we measure, a change in our metrics. And when you do that, it's a total paradigm shift. It is. It will be a total shift in how we think and in what our goals are. And I think it would make a huge difference in the kingdom. May the Lord bless you and grow you in discipling and discipleship, and enable you to make disciples that make disciples. God bless.